Oh, hi there. We are drawing some very scary stuff today. So I'm going to walk you through what I like to do when I do a creature that's supposed to scare the hell out of you. And if you're wondering, like, hey, how can I make my creatures scarier because they tend to be bubbly and cute? Well, I'm going to show you how to unbubble your creatures and how to make them not cute. So please pay attention. All right, so let's go cosmic horror, since that to me is the scariest form of creature that you can do because it's space. Nobody in space can hear you scream. You don't know what's out there. There's a lot of planets, etc. I'm just going to start with a thumbnail. Let's see what happens. So I'll draw big enough on the screen here so you can actually see it. Let's do something a little strange. Okay, something a little out of the ordinary. Maybe it doesn't have a normal mouth. I'm just letting the pencil flow where it wants to. I like drawing arachnid type things, so maybe this creature is not going to be arachnid. It's actually going to be rather bulbous, and I don't know. Let's just see what happens. All right, so we got like this hulking shape right here. It's similar to a beetle, and instead of insectoid legs, I'm thinking, you know what? What if this thing is like a blob and it lives in like a sewer area? Or not a sewer, but just someplace really disgusting on the planet that it's from. Now, what that means is that there could be a lot of strange things on its body. I'm talking tentacles, if it lives in muck and garbage. Maybe there are suction cups where it kind of eats that stuff. I don't know. I don't want to puke while I'm drawing. That's gross. But I think I will add some tentacles here. Just a slight indication of where I believe tentacles could exist on it. But not necessarily. I'm not going to necessarily be committed to it. Alright, now, first things first, I always like to establish the face. This is not going to be a familiar face. So what I'm doing now is I'm thinking outside the box and I'm going outside of my comfort zone. Okay, so no humanoid-looking face. No faces that I know of on any animal on Earth. But this could potentially exist somewhere, because I do have to make this feasible. Those of you that are new to my channel, welcome back. This is where I help you become a better artist. I want to thank everybody for, subscribing too, because you guys are awesome, man. YouTube has been such a pleasure to get back into ever since, I don't know, the end of May of last year. I cannot believe it's 2024. That's nuts. Okay. Now I'm starting to see this really cool shape happen. Also, if you're new, my method of designing creatures might be different than what you're used to. I like to really emphasize the thumbnail stage, and then once I get the thumbnailing down, I like to pour my heart and soul into the face and especially the personality of it. Because the details in the face are ultimately going to dictate, usually, what's around the rest of the body. So this is how I typically start the drawings. Whenever I do a creature that I have no idea what's going to happen. And I think that's the funnest part about it. All right, so it looks like this face, well, I was thinking that these could be eyes. And then I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe it doesn't have any eyes. Maybe it just has like a disgusting mouth right there. So I'm just going to draw some strange looking fangs / teeth like this, so you guys will be able to see it. And then, even though I'm making this up, I'm still pulling from the years of obsessing about insects, and I'm trying to, dive deep into my repertoire of insectoid reference in my brain, because it's pretty demented. And I'm trying to see what's going to work here. I don't know if it will. I'm going to try to make it work. This is one of the funnest parts about creature design. Like, you have no idea what's going on. Okay, so right there, it kind of looks like the top of a mouth, and I don't want that. So, why don't I add another layer in, right underneath all that gook, and then maybe it has like a proboscis. Okay, and then it has this like sharp thing. Maybe it just like licks the ground, I don't know. Those kind of do look like eyes, don't they? Yeah, they do. Okay, so I don't want this thing looking like the Predator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change up that head a little bit. I'm going to add in some more tentacles here. So the head can actually be a little thicker here, and then maybe a weird shape coming off of each of those openings. That could be kind of neat. I have to watch my perspective though. I actually will use an eraser now. I don't like to. There we go. Those were not in perspective correctly, so everything on this side of the center line is going to be a little less prominent. I'm just going to honor that. Indicate where that hole might exist over on the other side of the head. There we go. Now we're talking. Now we're getting somewhere really gross. So I'm going to darken those up. There we go. Okay. Now the mouth down here, I had an idea. Let's get really deadly and let's just hang a bunch of really sharp, disgusting teeth off of that sucker. You have no idea what's happening. Oh, you know what? Why don't we just split it right down the middle? Maybe the whole head opens up. Oof. Yeah, that's pretty deadly. So I'm just going to darken up inside there. Right like that. There we go. Now, you're probably wondering, like, how am I just making this up as I go without doing thumbnails? Well, I did do a thumbnail. The thing is, I'm letting my brain just put lines down. That's all I'm doing. And then I'm going with the flow. That's one of the coolest things about doing creatures. You could just go with the flow and see what happens. Stop trying to perfect everything. Some of your worst designs come from trying to perfect it. Some of your best designs come when you're not thinking. Because typically, what you draw subconsciously when you don't think usually is better because you're not second guessing yourself. Now we're getting somewhere. See the shape starting to happen? Now I can put some exoskeleton on there. If I establish everything on one side of the face first, it makes me feel better to take that and duplicate it on the other side of the face. All I got to do is put it in perspective. So just remember that. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to now give myself a very nice coating of graphite across the head. Right like that. Those of you new here, I like shading like this. If I do a minimum of 3 different directions, it usually will give me a good starting point, like a good coating of graphite. Keeping the pencil sharp is important. Keeping your hands away from the graphite is very important. Bobby, how do you draw without getting smudges everywhere? Well, I don't smudge it. I know it's kind of cheeky, but just keep your hand away from it. That's all you got to do. If you're right-handed, start drawing from the left of the top and move your way down diagonally. If you're left-handed, do the opposite, down. Quit putting your palm over your drawing and sliding your palm around trying to draw stuff. Just keep it away, like this. Use your pinky as an anchor point to stabilize your hand. Put it on the paper, and then you move your arm. You don't move your wrist, you move your arm. The only time you should move your wrist is when you're putting in finite details and you have to. But even then, my wrist isn't moving a lot. All right? Easier said than done, I know, because you have to remember to do it mentally and physically during the drawing. But you'll get there. You'll get there. It'll become second nature. All right. Let's do this. These strange arms here, I'm going to put some really cool little elbows, I guess. Maybe some stretched skin. And then instead of the normal hands that are typically on creatures, why don't we do something really weird? How about these hands split like this, and maybe there's like 2 smaller appendages up here with fingers, and then you got the knuckles up here, and then you got the huge set of carpal bones and tendons. Okay, and then that thing, put the padding of the toes on there. This thing on the side, maybe it's a gripper on the side, or you just got this big retractable claw like a velociraptor and say, hey, the hell with it, let's put that in. I think I'm going to do that because I can. It's my creature, right? There we go. And the other thing about designing creatures is just have fun with it, guys. Seriously, you're not drawing this for anybody. That's why I always say that if you have a sketchbook, stop treating it like you have to prove it to somebody else with all the sketches in there. That's your diary, man. Like everybody, it's your diary. Don't worry about what goes in your sketchbook. That's your learning tool. Okay? All right. If you would see the amount of concept art from big game studios from their artists, you would be like, wait, who drew that? Because it's awful. And why is it awful? Because we all have to go through that design phase. Man, I got so many bad drawings in my sketchbook that I deem are bad. It's just like, there's no way that these scribbles would amount to anything. But you got to get through the bad in order to get to the good. That's why you have an art director. Okay? There's going to sift through that. Okay. Well, yeah, that's kind of a cool head there. I'm not too happy with the shoulder, so let's see. If the brachialis muscle is right there, maybe the forearm is underneath that stretched skin. There you go. You see how my pencil is just kind of flowing around there. I'll do an oval here to show you the wrist. There's the elbow here. There's the shoulder here. All right, like I said, man, it's Lovecraftian, so anything goes in this horrific looking thing. All right, I think I'm going to darken the actual ground here just to show you guys where the creature's standing. All right, I'm going to darken the toenails, put a little shine on there, so I'm going to leave the reflection inside using the paper. There we go. You see that little slit right there? And you can just do it again here, but don't do the same thing, so just give a little bit of different pattern inside there. And then you take your pencil and then you give it a nice coating across everything. And then you fade it up into the arm, and all of a sudden you start to see depth happening. It's really cool. All right, let's get weird. Okay, you got these strange arms coming out. Ooh. Okay, you got this little joint here. Maybe there's another joint here. And that, hey guys, that's just the middle arm. I think now it has like 6 legs. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. But it's kind of fun at the same time. Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm going to draw that other hand on this side. Let's spread out the fingers a little differently to add some variety. Maybe. Here's where I'm using my wrist. See? I'm just kind of moving it like this. I'm just going to put some shading in between those fingers here. Less light's getting down there anyway. There we go. Now we're talking. That's fun. All right, so the face. See, the face is going to be the selling point. So whenever you do a creature, you want to sell the face more than anything. Unless there's a functional feature on the body that's so crazy that you have to show that part of the body more than the face. All right, I just had a crazy idea, and I don't know if this is going to work. Why don't we make this pretty majestic, and I'll put like a big headdress up here. Not a headdress, but... ooh, man. It's almost regal. Like, you don't want to mess with this thing, whatever planet it's from, because it probably guards a city or something. There we go. Okay, so I think what I have, well, yeah, establish that center line, because there's the back of the head. I have to honor that head on the other side here. So this is where it can get kind of tricky. So the head, if you were to lay a pencil down, it's not straight like this. The head is kind of leaning down, like the creature's looking, like cocking its head to the side, kind of like dogs do when they're interested. So that means that you have to be in perspective this way. Okay, you have to make sure that, well, each point you're going to duplicate on the other side, but you're going to tilt it. All right, and a way to do that is if you look at the center line that I drew here on the head, just put a dot there. And then look at the way the head's tilted. Do a 90-degree angle based on the tilt of the head and do a straight line going up. Like this. And then after you do that, then you can make sure you keep it at 90 degrees and just kind of do your perspective lines going across there. So now you know where the stuff is on the other side. All right. Now it's a big headdress here. Okay, so I know that this point is going to be on this line somewhere on the other side. Okay, so I want to make sure that everything is equidistant. It's slightly not, okay, because the head is showing more of its left side than the right side. So that means that everything on its right side is a little bit foreshortened, just ever so slightly. And that little slight foreshortening is going to help the believability of it. So it's like almost equidistant, but not quite. So now, okay, another line that I'm going to use by going across, and you'll be able to see this when I'm going to have to zoom out to show you everything here, but I'll do that in a little bit. All right, so I know that based on these perspective lines, I can now just curl this here. I can honor my original angle of that first horn. There we go. And I can always adjust as I go later. But there you go. That's how you would do it. Because a lot of, and I used to do the same thing where I didn't tilt the head correctly and it sucked. Okay. This body, man. Why don't we make it very strange, huh? I mean, this thing already is weird. Why don't we just make it even weirder? Like the shoulder can come out here. Yeah. There we go. So I'm going to darken up that, I guess you can call it an antler. Antler like that. All right, well, I'm starting to get the body in. That's a very important thing. You get the body in, you can feel a little bit better about what you're drawing. All right, so the elbow to this sucker, since this is the flat ground, the elbow to this sucker is going to be slightly bent. Look at the weight shift of the creature. So it's like everything, the creature is tilted a little bit, like it wants to walk or it's just scoping out its surroundings. So that means that the elbow is going to be bent out this way. Okay. Now, I want to put some energy into this. So that means that maybe it's dipping its elbow a little bit. All right, this strange side finger is going to show up over here, but it's not going to show up the same way. So maybe it's bent a little bit. And see that claw? Maybe the claw is bent inwards a little bit here so we can actually see it bent. Okay, this thing isn't from Earth. We don't know how the gravity is from the planet that it is or the dimension that it is. This knee, this very strange knee popping out, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to dip it here. I'm actually going to bend it upwards as if it's relaxing on that leg, but it's trying to move its shoulder. Kind of like wolves or werewolves. You see it in movies where they plant those back legs and then they dip their shoulders and their abdomens and they try to move with the arms. So that means, probably going to be off the page actually. Okay, so here's the knee. We want to go up like this and maybe bend it up. We're still going to suck in that leg a little bit. There we go. So now that you can see the power, I mean, look at the outline that I'm giving this creature, okay? It's giving me a good starting point so that I don't have to figure everything out as I go later on. And there's a fine line between just inventing a creature just to invent a creature and also having an outline of a previously drawn creature and then adding details to it. So it's kind of like you're still making it up as you go, but you still have a guideline. Okay, now I want to focus on this head because I'm really intrigued by what I drew here, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but it just so happens that I'm pretty happy with the shapes. Some things will change a little bit, but I have to be careful of that perspective. So my previous video, probably want to check that out, where I, teach you guys how to draw a car. So check that video out. I tell everybody that when you draw in perspective and you flip it on that other side, you got to be careful about how things are turned and how you skew it and shrink it. Okay, all of this stuff is viewed as if it's already stretched out to the farthest that it can be based on the creature's bone structure. On this side, it's going to be slightly skinnier. All right, so that means that this angle coming out here with this weird shape, if I do the same thing over here, it's going to be slightly sucked in a little bit and flattened for that little hole. Okay, so you got to be careful. The second thing, sit over your drawing. I'm sitting over it. I'm not tilting my head, not doing anything like that. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to add in that other tentacle. I'm just going to slightly go down here at an angle. I'm just going to walk myself over here. And I'm not going to draw the tentacle the same as I did the other one. You don't want to be monotonous with your stuff. Right? When you're drawing these things, tentacles go everywhere. As my good friend Dave Melvin, who's an awesome creature designer, he always said that it's good to add a little bit of chaos in your sketches, because it just looks more natural. Okay, think about a jellyfish. Think about an octopus. Think about those tentacles that come off of it. Not one tentacle is floating or moving the same as the other. So imagine a creature from another dimension with these crazy tentacles coming out, and they're moving in all kinds of directions. Like this one's flowing down here. What if this one was bent up? Maybe it has to use those as sensors. Like, I don't know. Okay, let's put some more detail in this face. I'm going to show you firsthand, because I haven't done this in a while. I'm going to show you how I use graphite and black Prismacolor together, and I'm going to tell you why. Let's put a very, very nice coating of graphite across this again. Look, everybody. Look how far away my fingers are from it. I'm not going like this. Don't do that. Instead, put a nice coating down. Start light. So when you go over the second pass from your previous one, don't push harder. The graphite layers itself, okay? Yes, it's not going to be darker right now. You can always add the darkness in later by pushing harder for a second pass at layering, okay? Like I said, when you get to like the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hour sketches, you're going to probably give a pass of maybe 8 to 10 strokes. Or I'm sorry, passes of shading. Okay, here we go. So this is good. This is probably like 4 passes for the graphite. You can see the different tone versus right on the side of it. So this is the cream color of the moleskin. Now I'm going to take a nicely sharpened black Prismacolor. Not the Verithins. It's not a graphite pencil. It is the straight up black colored pencil that comes with the sets. You can actually buy these separately. If you guys are interested in buying the exact tools I'm using right now, there are links directly on the video. So you just look at the screen. You can see my store. You can purchase these, like Faber-Castell pencils, and then black Prismacolor and Moleskine sketchpad. All right, here we go. Not pushing hard. Remember, I use this because this is wax. That's graphite. If you don't want to smear the graphite, you mix the wax on top of it. That helps it not smear, especially if your sketchbook is several months or even years old and you open and close the sketchbook. You ever notice that? It happens to me. Like, you'll have a sketchbook that's 7 years old and you're just like, man, I really like that drawing. Should have kept it clean. And I didn't put graphite on it, or black Prismacolor. Now you're going to start to see a whole different ball game happening. And to prove this, I'm going to zoom in so you can actually see what I'm doing. Oh, that's the wrong way. There we go. Check this out, guys. Look at that new texture happening. Watch this pencil go across this page. Just follow that line. Watch as I go into this area. Look at that. You see that roughness happening in there? It's beautiful. But you got to be sure. I mean, look how far back I'm holding it on the actual tip of the pencil. That's the key to it, okay? Now, the further up you hold your tool, the more finite the details you're going to get within that drawing. Always remember that. Now, that's not to suggest that you can't draw like this. No. Hey, remember a couple months ago, somebody in the comments told me I drew like a 5-year-old. I don't even know what that means, but cool, man. All right, so we're going to turn this, and we're going to hit this in a different direction. Let's go again. I'm not pushing harder. Look at the smoothness happening now. Now I'm committing. You have to commit, which means when you, like if you ever looked at your drawings and you find a place where you stopped shading and then you picked it back up to continue, that picking back up point happened to be darker than the other point, and you have that weird darkness like the blotch. It helps if you just commit the whole direction going all the way up. Okay, so that means that I'm going to turn this the other way, and I'm going to do it one more time going this direction. All right, so I'm just going to do this. Very light. Now look how smooth that looks, and look at that texture you get for it. Okay, so let's zoom out. I'm going to show you what I mean. Check that out. Look at that really cool. It almost looks like you took your finger and you wiped it, or you had some graphite powder and you kind of spread it around there. Okay, I'm going to take my pencil again and I'm going to go over that. So by the time I'm done with just the head, it probably has almost 10 different passes of a mixture of graphite and black Prismacolor. So let's do it one more time. Maybe two. There we go. So what this does is it helps fill in the gaps because of the roughness of the black Prismacolor. All right, so let's zoom in here again so you can actually see. So the black Prismacolor sits differently than graphite. Graphite is skinnier, like every single speck that is detached from the graphite pencil. It fills in the grooves of the paper differently than wax. So you have to go back over it and get a tighter fill in for the graphite. So by now, you got a super smooth section to work with. Now, here's the thing where you got to make a choice. When it comes to a fully finished creature, you can make most of it with the black Prismacolor, or you can use the black Prismacolor sparingly and devote 85-90% of the drawing to just be graphite, and then have the black Prismacolor be the darks, like parts of the or parts of the creature where there's no light source, like holes in it, there's porous openings, there's exoskeletons, maybe you're drawing bones and there's an eye socket that's really, really black. Okay, there's that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the head mostly black Prismacolor. I'm just going to kind of edge this area off a little bit. Okay, like, I mean, look at the power of the black Prismacolor. See in here where the head splits apart? Watch this. Boom. And then you just fade it off. And look how dark that gets. Now, you can do that with a pencil. It's fine. Like, if you have an HB pencil or a 6B, I mean, if you're getting anywhere past 5B, you might as well just use charcoal. So, okay, once we have this, I'm just going to start putting in some details here with the black Prismacolor, and I'm going to darken up where the shadows are eventually going to exist. And then I have to use the black Prismacolor differently than I do graphite. Okay, the strokes are going to be thicker and it lays down on the paper differently than graphite. So I'm just kind of walking it over like this. Do you see the difference between this shaded area and that shadow, how they meet right there? You can either keep that there as a ridge, or you can fade it in. If you want to fade it in, you use tiny circles. Now, why do you use tiny circles and don't go straight across like this? It's because when you use a circle and you start to shade, when you go back around on the circle movement, it fills in the gaps that you previously missed. If you were to do straight across strokes like this, you're going to have streaks. And then you're probably going to accidentally have a darker mark, and you're going to screw it up again. You're going to have to keep going back over it, and then you get your eraser and you screw your picture up. So that's what happens. All right, so down here I'm pretty confident about the shape, so I don't have to worry about any of the markings that I put down. Okay, so this is where I walk the shadow up like this. See, like down here, it's going to be darker, so I probably want to darken the teeth too. It's just a really nasty creature, man. Really, really gross. Okay, so let's do some more of the actual head. So let's zoom out here a little bit. I'm going to do more of the head. All right, and then just to kind of show where things might go. There we go. See how I'm just kind of walking the pencil over? That's fine. Right, like that. In a little bit here, we are going to jump to some time lapse, okay? Because this drawing is going to be a little longer than normal. And so right here, I'm just going to kind of walk you through all the little details that I'm doing. And then I will tell you when we're about to jump into some time lapse here, so you can watch as time goes by. Just relax and, you know, draw along with me. You don't have to draw as fast as it's going to be, but you're already getting the gist of how I create these things. And then later on, once the time lapse winds down, we'll go back into normal mode, and I'm going to show you how I, put some finishing touches on it and tie up loose ends so you can really see what's going on. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into some time lapse, and you're going to see this thing form into something that you don't want to meet in an alley. All right, let's go. Alrighty, welcome back. First of all, thank you so much for going through the time lapse. I love doing those. Those of you listening right now, I have so many creature videos that I'm going to post over the next several months. I mean, we're talking well into late spring, early summer, and beyond, where I'm going to time lapse the entire 6 to 10 hour process. Put some cool music on, just draw some really freaky stuff. Now, most of the time when I draw these creatures for you guys, it's just a simple stance. So you notice the ground plane is right here. You know, it's like a hulking mass, and it's directly face forward like this. It's just for easy viewing. There's going to be some more complex stuff. You know, and if you like what you've seen so far and you're learning, I do encourage you to like and subscribe and comment. I love reading the comments. I can't get to them all because I'm starting to get a lot now, which is probably a good problem to have. It does help the algorithm, but it's also a good problem to have. It just means that you're engaged, and you know, it really motivates me to keep going too. Because I love teaching, and I love the way or the direction that, you know, the channel's going on YouTube. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's about to happen, and I can't really say yet. Right now, I'm focusing on all of the elements of the creature that are directly in front of us. So there will be some atmospheric perspective coming in, specifically with tentacles. We can't go Lovecraftian without tentacles, folks. Okay, just nasty tentacle stuff. Now, all of this stuff is going to stay relatively loose. And here, let me zoom out so you can actually see what the head looks like. So this is the headdress. This is what it looks like up here. Maybe when I start shading the tip up here, I'll zoom out, but I still want to do some work down here before I, you know, get that going. All right, so let's zoom back in halfway. Okay, let's get going there. So in here, I don't really need to show too much detail, but I do want to show some outline of some tentacles that could be coming your way. Now, as I mentioned before, one of the coolest aspects that you can put to your creature sketches is chaos. Chaos is the ability to show movement and unpredictability within your creations. It's hard. I know. It's we have these specific images in our head of what we want to do based on other images from other artists that they've done. And what that means is their stances, the armor they have, the weapons, the guns they're holding, all that stuff. It's up to you to be your own concept artist because you are an idea factory. You need to do stuff that nobody has ever seen before. The problem with that is that it's hard to invent things that we haven't seen. Now, you can take things that has been done before and put your own spin on it, which it's kind of a polarizing subject, but fan art. Okay, so everybody wants to do fan art. And I'm not really trying to go on a little side rant here, but I feel like I need to address this now that the subject has come up. Fan art is cool if you do something new with it. But at the same time, you don't really learn anything by doing fan art because you're just doing art that somebody else has done. And if you're a freelancer wanting to get work, the chances of actually finding work based on fan art are very, very slim to none. Yes, there are companies out there that want to do fan art, but at the same time, why would they hire you when they can just hire the original artist? So unless you're doing it better than them, there's no point in putting it in your portfolio. It doesn't help you. Instead, do some crazy stuff. Craziness, even if it fails. Okay, it's better to try and fail than not to try at all and wonder if it was going to work. Okay? Now, there's going to be some mist that I'm going to put in here. So I kept some of the parts of the tentacle light. Notice how the line construction was not outlined perfectly coming up this way. That's because I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to fade off some of the graphite into the mist. I'm going to turn it into mist, and then I'm going to go in a different direction to make it as smooth as possible. I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to cut across the tentacle, and voila, it looks like it's breaking the plane of some kind of misty cloud coming through. All right, and this tentacle is going to be closer than this one, so guess what? This is going to get a darker treatment. So I'm just going to darken this tip, walk the strokes backwards like this, and all I'm doing is I'm doing the thick to thin lines like this. So if I go over here and I show you thick to thin, thick to thin, thick to thin, if you get used to that mechanical movement with your hand, your hand-eye coordination, your brain. It all becomes second nature. I don't even think about it anymore. All right. And we don't need to get super detailed about this section. Look, foreground, middle ground, background. Middle ground gets a little bit of love, but not much, because you don't need to. I'm not selling you the tentacles, I'm selling you the face. You don't get excited about the tentacles, you get excited about the face, and then you wonder what kind of creature has that face and what they're packing. And in this case, it looks like some pretty deadly tentacles. And like I mentioned before, there might be some little suckers on there, you know, I don't know, some kind of octopi suckers. Maybe you can put that on the side there. I could put 400 on there, but I don't really want to do that. Maybe there's some up here, like little suction cups that by turning the tentacle this way, you start to see more of them, and then it starts to wrap around. You know, you can have a lot of fun with this stuff, man. Okay, so a really important part of this particular creature is what's happening under the belly. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little trick. Have you guys ever drawn anything and you're worried about sketching over what you previously shaded? Well, if you built your values up correctly, you don't have to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the black Prismacolor, you know, the wax that you can't erase, and I'm just going to go over all the stuff that I drew. Pretty trusting of what I put down, huh? But there's power in this, okay, because I already trust the values that I laid down previously. Remember, it's about layering. It's no different than a construction crew taking the excavator, digging out giant holes of where the basement's going to go for a building. Then you put the pylons in, and then you just start building the foundation. It is no different. The stronger your foundation, the better your art's going to be. This is why, and I taught foundation drawing before people went into graphic design, fashion, and industrial design. The better your foundations are, the better your work's going to be. And of course, you also learn as you go. It's like, yeah, you might be an awesome artist and get hired into a job, but your skills usually don't really skyrocket until after you start the job, because then you really start to learn. So you see this kind of misty effect under here. So for the third time, I just watched a movie last night. Comment below if you like it, if you don't like it, or you have no idea what I'm talking about. But The Outwaters. Okay, The Outwaters is a found footage movie. Say what you want about found footage. I love them if they're done correctly. There are many bad ones, but there are also good ones. Speaking of found footage, I'm going to show you what a dork I am. Look at this. That's a list of all of the found footage movies I've seen. Look at that. I just keep writing them down. I'm like, oh, I've seen that, I've seen that, I've seen that, that. And I just got done watching Deadware. That was okay. But anyway, back to being a Lovecraftian dork. I don't even know where my page is here. Oh, wait, I think I passed it. Oh, there's my car. Oh, there we go. Okay, anyway. You know what? I could just leave it zoomed out here, and then I'll just start putting in some values. I'm layering, and I'm trying to be patient. Now, why am I paying attention to this particular part of the body? Because I need to show depth where the belly is, because I feel like the back of the page was a little too bare. Okay, and there's going to be stuff going on within the face, and mind you, the face, that does wrap around way underneath. I mean, this thing does have a neck. I don't know what it looks like, but we're going to leave it up to you to decide what it looks like. Remember, this thing's traveling through atmosphere. It lives in a physical place. Okay, so we need to prove that it lives in a physical place. We can't just tell, we need to prove it. We need to show it. Okay, so that means that, oh, look at this. Now I can zoom in and show you what I'm talking about. Oh, actually, I'm going to zoom in even farther because I'm focusing on the head. And I know many of you asked, Bobby, can you please zoom in more? I'm like, yes, okay, I'll zoom in. Now you see that value that's happening under there. It's like it's walking through smoke. The tentacles are going to need to be darker. The great thing about this method is that once you lay down that foundation, everything falls into place. I have this dark tentacle in the front. We know that that is closest to us. Okay, and then this one is even closer. So guess what I have to do? See, this is how I check my stuff. I gotta make this even darker, so I gotta push harder with that black Prismacolor. And I'm gonna walk that up like this. And I'm just gonna kind of fade it into that misty smoke of that horrible atmosphere that it lives in, like this. I don't want to leave these suction cups outlined because it doesn't look right. This is me being technical now, so I'm going to fill that in. The reason I just switched to my graphite pencil and I didn't do it with my Prismacolor is because it's such a small area that the graphite fills in the grooves of the paper better than the black Prismacolor. I already have enough texture on there. Now I want to really get in there. This is also the importance of keeping it sharp. Look how sharp that is. You haven't seen me draw with a dull pencil this entire time. Okay, so I'm going to keep it that way, and I'm actually going to give it a nice little darker outline here, but I don't want to be cartoony with it, so I'm going to do small little circles, and I'm going to fade the line back up into the shape of the suctions. Suckers of the suckers, like this. This still isn't right, so I'm going to put that little core shadow on there because technically this is a tube. It's like a cylinder, you know? Okay. Now this part, I'm just starting to piece together things that may be under shadow. Okay. I'm going to indicate what's going on that neck. So I'm going to put in some value here, turn the pencil. Put in some more value here, and I love hinting at things that exist without actually showing you what they are. Okay, so we know that the deltoid muscle is pretty banging, okay? But I don't need to prove that to you. That's up to you to decide what's going on in there. But in here, there's probably going to be large wrinkles because of the shoulder being pressed up against the head or the neck. Maybe it doesn't have a big neck. And I'm starting to see other areas where I can bring some faint tentacles showing in the distance here. Now look at all the depth that's happening. Okay, this thing looks like it's deep. It's not just a flat 2D image anymore. This sucker lives, it breathes. It will probably bite your head off, okay? This little area down here could probably be worked out some more. So what I'll do is I'll actually bring very lightly, like look how far back I'm holding the pencil, pretty far back, and my pinky is sliding against the image away from the graphite so I don't smear anything. And I'm taking this hand and I'm holding the paper down so it doesn't bunch up and down and there's no waves. See how it moves? I'm very picky about this part of the process, and I'm going to go over everything. And I'm going to try to keep my strokes very close together. The closer together you keep your strokes, the better the shading is going to look. The lighter you hold it, the more control you have, believe it or not, because it will prevent you from pushing hard randomly. That's how you get some of the streaks in your drawings too. There we go. Okay, now, here's where it gets fun. Actually, the whole thing is fun. Right in this area, I'm liking it. Okay, so I'm trying to think of, okay, what do I have to sell? I'm selling the depth, I'm selling the face, I'm selling the musculature and the overall bulk of the body. In here, I'm going to put the black Prismacolor over everything I just drew. And I'm going to walk it down, and each millimeter that I travel downward, I'm going to release pressure. And I'm going to fade that off into the graphite that I already put down. Look at that texture that happens here. So now we not only have cool shapes that are, you know, far in the distance. I'm going to put maybe some like little spikes here. These spikes have to be darker than the surrounding graphite, so it looks like it's coming off of the page. See how that happened? You just need to compare each stroke and your pressure to the surroundings. Okay, so if something looks a little too similar, then you have not done enough work for the shading and the values around it. All right, so here I can probably get a little darker. Inside this area, there's not much light happening, but there could also be bounce light. Okay, we don't know what kind of settings that this thing lives in. So I'm not going to go, into too much detail with the entire body, because that is going to be up to you and your imagination, right? There's much more power in suggestion than there is in final designs, most of the time. And to elaborate on why I think that, it's because think about all the movies out there that were unsuccessful when they got converted to, or think about all of the books out there that were awesome, and then all of a sudden the movies were unsuccessful when they were converted to it. And I know I've mentioned this before. It's because you want to treat your drawing like you're reading a book. All right. If you guys are listening to this and you're worried about your stuff not looking realistic, don't worry about it. It doesn't need to look realistic until the design is good. Okay, but if you leave specific parts loose, like I have with pretty much the entire body past its neck, the thousands of people that are going to view this video, you all are going to see something different back there. Is that a wing? Are there 10 more legs back there? Is there another mouth? And that's the beauty of suggestion. Okay, because if you have a sketchbook full of thumbnails and you show it to, a group of people, everybody's going to see something different, and that's way more powerful. So this side of the head isn't as important. However, the tips of the tentacle over here, they are important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put slightly darker lines in there, and then I'm going to fade that off. This one's going to stay pretty light. I'm just going to keep it in an outline. All right. Now, this tentacle is not outlined, but here's where it gets pretty gnarly if you do it correctly. I'm going to fade off some atmosphere going this way. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to commit to it, and I'm just going to move it this way, and I'm going to tilt it this way, and I'm going to move it again. Now, this tentacle right here and the graphite that I'm putting down here are pretty much going to be the same thing. Watch what happens. And I'm going to move it right over top of that, and I'm going to fade it up like this. I'm going to turn it again, and I'm going to fade it again. Now, why am I doing this? Because it's all a play on the values. I need to convince you that this thing is moving through a physical space. So then, what happens is, I look at all the surrounding values that I'm working with. Okay, so let's zoom in again so I can show you exactly what I mean. This tentacle, you've pretty much lost the edge. Good, because you don't need it. This tentacle does have an edge, so by showing this edge, you already know what that one looks like. See, there's that power of interpretation again. So now, I'm going to make this darker. Why? Because I want to show more of this. It's happening closer to us. Now, this dark line right here, I need to get rid of that. I don't like that. So I'm just going to add some more darkness, and I'm going to fade that line off. Now watch what happens. I'm going to do little circles. I'm going to walk that line outwards like this, and I'm going to keep that same pressure. And then I'm going to fade that off by little circles into that area that I did not finish on purpose. And voila. Now, I'm going to go a slightly different direction, and I'm going to walk up some more mist here, and I'm just going to kind of bring it above it. Okay, maybe bring some of this in here. So now you're starting to see the power of atmosphere. Okay, plus it's Lovecraftian. I mean, this universe that H.P. Lovecraft has created with all of his work, it's pretty disgusting. And it's awesome, and it's fantastical, and it's like if you love Hellraiser, if you love Event Horizon, if you love the movies like The Void and all of that, it's right up that alley, man. I love it. So like out here, I'm gonna need to put some value. Now I'm not gonna put a lot of work on these arms, but I'll put enough in here to show you that this is a little closer than what the mid legs are. Like this. And then over here, I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, so I wanna put some darkness over here. I'm not gonna go over the scales that I drew because I want those to be a lighter value. I want those to poke out. There we go. All right, so let's zoom out and let's see what we got. All right, there we go. Okay, guys, I really hope you liked today's drawing. I loved doing this kind of stuff. Please like and subscribe, comment below. Tell me about your day. Tell me about your art education. Tell me about your journeys, your struggles, triumphs. And I will see you in the next video for an even scarier creature than this. Stay tuned. Later.